Hey, 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 and a hey, hey, ho, and yeah, this do not adjust your television. We are controlling the transmission on this YouTube channel because that's how YouTube works. But anyway, yeah, so this is your weekly AMA with me and. Wait a second. Okay, so we got Kushti here. We all know him. Um, and so like the other guy without the hat is kind of looks like the guy with the hat they usually hear. But anyway, say hi to everybody,
Hi.
guys with and without hats.
Good morning, everybody.
Hi everyone, my pleasure to be here again.
Morning. It's not morning. It's evening. What the hell? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Quality extreme.
That's
Yeah,
not.
yeah. It's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the Ergoverse. I'm actually pretty excited about the Disco Solaris crossover. That's really cool. I always really like the art in Disco Solaris. That's kind of like my cup of tea. That kind of stuff, like neo-futuristic stuff or whatever you call it. Um, I always liked it, so I'm glad that they bridged over to Erg, and looks like they're actually already moving some NFTs. Do you guys have a Disco Solaris Ergo NFT yet?
I don't.
Uh, Not yet, but yeah, I'll try to buy some.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Mu Finance is doing it automated, right? So they'll read
Right.
the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
metadata on Cardano and dump it into register over on Ergo and remint a token. And they don't
Yeah,
burn it on the
Dark
way back. They
Lord,
throw it in a lock contract. Yeah. What's that?
the Dark Lord, or Dark Knight, Donnie Darko. He told me that they're mewing it over there, and yeah, like I said, I'm just happy to see that because I've always been an admirer of Disco Solaris when it was even on just on Cardano. The community has always been really cool. I know the people that made that project. They always kind of try to, just kind of be really community focused. So, yeah, I'm glad that they're on Ergo because I know they've always actually been fans. So I'm glad that they finally kind of decided to move to Ergo. So what else do we have? Some emission reduction. We emit less now.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happened
Uh,
the other day. We're down to, what is it, 15 cushiony?
Yeah, so 15 now, and yeah, it's quite amazing how
I
smooth it was.
I think it's a good opportunity to mention that Sigmanauts mining pool, remind people that they're collecting storage rent, and that hopefully at this point can do a little bit of offsetting compared to taking into account the emission reduction. So for those of you not in a pool or in a pool and want bonus tokens and storage rent, join up that with the Sigmanauts pool, please.
wow, yeah, you sound really excited about that QX.
Was that too formulaic? That was too like
Yeah,
monotone, wasn't
that
it?
was a little bit
Hey
like,
guys, join
yeah,
up with the
if
Sigmanauts
you
pool. Is that better?
now you're getting all choppy and robotic. I mean, you kind of are, but still though, you shouldn't be as choppy and robotic as usual. Um, yeah, yeah. So that's cool. What else has been going on?
Well, we're talking about a Ergo meetup in Colorado Springs this September, end of
Oh yeah, yeah,
September,
yeah.
early October.
I saw Joe. Saw Joe talk about that. That would be really cool. Yeah, actually, when did he say that he's thinking of doing it?
It's either the first weekend in September, which is like the third, or else like the 10th, whatever the first 2 weekends are. We're gonna put out a vote to see which one is more attractive to the most people.
Well, you know what actually be really cool would actually be to make it around the time where Evo is happening in Vegas. because you're going to have a bunch of people like, I mean, Vegas is not super close, but it's not super far either from Colorado. I'll be there, so I mean, I'd love to make it out. I don't know if I'll be able to come out to the U.S. just for that, but if I'm already in the U.S., I could make an effort to come out, and I'm sure others would as well, since they're all in the same. But anyway, that's something to talk to Joe about, I think. But I think that might make sense. I don't know.
So Rare Evo 2025 is when?
It's the beginning of August, I think.
Oh, that's pretty close.
Pretty close. It's April.
I know, but planning, Dan, organizing.
Planning.
We gotta get the band, we gotta get the strippers, that kind of stuff,
Well, I already got those tokenized, so it's good to go.
All right, we'll put out a community vote and see what people want to do.
Community vote, this is not a democracy. This is like a
It is.
plutocracy. It's controlled by a select group of secret individuals.
Joe's got a location that he's got to check dates on that's not always available, so we got to work around that. And yeah, hotel prices weren't terrible in the area. I think around September it was like $120 a night or something like that. Or you just pitch a tent on one of Joe's 2,000 acres kind of thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, doesn't Joe like own a mountain or something, or
Something
at
like
least
that.
parts of mountains? Yeah, just
bring your
I'm
tent.
sure there's caves. We can just go in a cave or something and just Airbnb that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
What else is happening? This was it last week or this week? We had some GraphQL issues. If people were noticing, two of the three load balancers went down. Load balance machines were not performing well, I guess. So they just needed to bounce with NGI and X, and they worked fine after that. But that brought us to how Nautilus works. Right now, Nautilus defaults to Sigma space GraphQL, but there's a hidden list of rollover servers for GraphQL. And right now in the Ergo ecosystem, we have at least 4 or 5, maybe 6 public ones. So we're getting Captain Nemo a list just to make sure he's got them all, so that if something like this happens again, then it'll keep rolling over to all the available GraphQL servers kind of thing. So that was interesting to see those. It's good to see where the choke points are that we've overlooked, before things go crazy, right? So that was good and bad at the same time to see, I think. Dan, what about we're getting a lot of questions about Zengate and all that kind of stuff lately. How's Zengate going?
Zen who?
Palmyra.
Who's that? Do I know her? Oh, yeah. So we got the launch on the 14th of August. And this is going to be the very, very first cross-chain launch using Rosenbridge. So we're going to be utilizing Rosenbridge to launch on both Cardano and Binance on BNB. So that's going to be really cool. And we're also, we're using DEXs on both Cardano and Binance. We're going to be launching on MinSwap on the Cardano side, and on PancakeSwap on the EVM side. And we're already, talking to Mo and Joe and making sure that everything is kosher, and and we have staking on both. The thing about it is, and so we were actually, we were, I was talking to Mew about potentially doing something over there. The problem is that, so one of the things that we ran into when we were finalizing everything for TGE is we had to get approval from the Seychelles FSA. So the company that actually is minting the tokens is a Seychelles company. It's not from Zengate. It's from our partner. It's from a partner company. and that company had to get a license from the Seychelles FSA, which was the first actually ever utility token license issued over there, which is pretty cool, I think. And that was issued for Palm. And that took quite a bit of time. Well, not quite, but more time than we thought it was going to take or hoped that it was going to take, because we're literally the first ones to go through the regulatory process. And so we finally did get it. The thing about it is that to keep it classified as a utility token and not a security, there has to be clear utility in every chain. And so essentially what we need to have is staking support for every chain. So right now we have Cardano, we have EVM, because that's where our main token supply is on. We still haven't built it out for Ergo. So once we build it out for Ergo, which is obviously in the pipeline, then we're also going to be able to start a liquidity pool on Ergo, like as in us doing it. Without that, we can't officially do it, because then that would that would violate regulations and basically screw up the utility token classification. But that's obviously doable. You can bridge the tokens through Rosen Bridge and use them on Ergo as well. So if you want Palm, if you want RS Palm on Ergo, you have the ability to do that.
All right, but so what do you need? Sorry, like staking contracts?
So for basically, we need to have staking support. So we have dynamic staking, and MGPie and Luca developed it for Cardano and for EVM, because that's our two main token holder groups are mostly Cardano and some EVM on BNB. And so, like I said, that's what we're using Rosen Bridge for, is to be able to move back and forth between these two ecosystems. Like I said, for us to be able to support Ergo officially, we would need to have staking on Ergo, or else it could actually be classified as security on Ergo. So that's what we need. We need to have staking support for staking on Ergo before we can spin up any kind of liquidity pools on Ergo. I was researching this today because, like I said, Mew. I was talking to Mew about this, and then I talked to Sam about this. And that looks like for us to be able to do that, that's what we need to do. And like I said, it's in the pipeline, but it's not going to be available at launch on the 14th, unfortunately. But we'll get it going.
Oh, I see. But staking, so before ErgoPad guys and PoW did staking contracts, so maybe you can talk with Louis about.
There is something that we can potentially do. I'm not sure, because also we Louis Vatre is also working with us. We're kind of like we take all your best Ergo peeps and get them to work for us. Haha. So Louis Vatre is also working on smart contracts with us. So maybe potentially that's something that he can look into, because he also worked on PoW, right? He still is working on PoW. Yep. I know that Quality Extreme it knows all about that. Is he working on PoW, QX?
Yeah.
HQ or Louis?
What happened to you? You sound really distant. Like
HQ or Louis?
Louis.
Yeah. We need Marty to work on the front end of Padilla as well. Marty, if you're watching this at some point, fix the front end of Padilla, please. Thank you.
Well, okay, but I'm saying, just right now I'm thinking about my own project. I need to have staking support on Ergo for me.
Yeah, you got it. You got it with Padilla. You've got it. The text there with the Ergo pad. It's all there. You just got to put it together, Dan.
Yeah. So it's not, like I said, it's on the roadmap. It's just, like I said, it's not going to be available on the 14th. So you would have, if you want to be able to do stuff with Palm, if you want to stake with Palm, use Rosen to either go to Cardano or to EVM, you know, depending on what you want to play with. If you want to play with both, play with both. You know, it would be, I think I'm actually really excited about this because I think this is going to be I know it is going to be the first official launch, a multi-chain launch using Rosen. And I would really like to see, you know, kind of like what it looks like in action, because that's actually going to bring, you know, we are lining everything up to make sure that there's going to be, you know, a bunch of trading and arbitrage between the two chains. And so it would be really interesting to see how Rosen stands up to like real-time arbitrage. I think it'll do well, you know, well, we're betting on it, you know, we're invested in that decision, but I think it'll actually do well. And I think that'll actually kind of give other projects a nice preview. I don't know why I said it weird, preview of how you can do a cross-chain launch using Ergo tech. So just that's, you know, it's pretty exciting to me. And like I said, I would really like to see how it all works out next week.
Yeah, well, we've seen in practice or in examples arbitrage happening between Cardano and Ergo simply with Rosen Erg. So and Rosen Bridge. So yeah, it seems to work well. At least, you know, you'll notice that during times of pumps, a lot of arbitrage is happening back and forth between the two. So yeah, cool. That'll be neat.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I got a question from Luke Graysmith. So, Dan, if you buy a bunch of Palm tokens on Cardano using ADA, do I lose my Cardano voting power? I mean, yeah, because I think Cardano, you can only vote with Cardano. I don't think they have like what is it? I mean, actually, I talked to Charles about this a while back, but I don't think there's anything like Babel, like voting support or anything on Cardano just yet. It would be interesting if there was. It would be pretty cool if there was, but I don't think there is Babel. I guess that what you would call it. What would you call something like that if you're voting with native assets? If you're
Proxy
using
tokens, I guess.
proxy, okay, yeah. I don't think they have anything like that on Cardano yet, but hopefully that's something that's going to be in the pipeline. And like I said, I talked to Charles about this a couple of years ago, I think. Yeah, it's been a few years since I talked to him, and he did think that that's actually something that's been really interesting. But I think it's just a matter of priorities of what they want to deploy now versus down the line. Yeah. So So the answer is yes. You would, I would imagine, lose voting power, but you know, you would gain voting power and participation power in the Palm economy, in a Palmari ecosystem, where you can actually use those tokens for the Palm DAO, which is going to be its own ecosystem, and that's also something that we're going to be launching, and actually potentially, you know, once we bridge it, we'll also bridge it over to Ergo. We're most likely going to be using the Paideia infrastructure for that, for the DAO.
Dan, can't you? I mean, that ADA that you sell Palm for, right? It goes into some sort of treasury, right? Regardless of whether you spend it or save it, right? You could do some sort of percentage voting power there, because if, let's say, you poll daily the amount of Palm holders, right, on Cardano that have purchased with ADA and directly into the treasury or the liquidity pool, you could then what's it called? Use that ADA. Oh, well, I guess this is only for ICOs, right? If you actually hold the ADA anymore. But if you hold the ADA, you could offer a percentage of voting to Rosen Palm holders or Palm holders, and you guys vote yourselves according to their plans. depending if you have that DAO
Well,
infrastructure.
then that
set
would
up.
kind of make us see. I mean, that essentially would
Make you a
us
DREP almost. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I mean, that's yeah. But the thing is, DREPs are delegating their ADA. So like, I don't actually, the people are delegating their ADA to DREPs like they do with staking. So you don't actually let the DREP custody the ADA. But if we're custodying the ADA, then we like. I mean, theoretically, we can be our own DREP, but that's kind of well, first of all, it's a bit moot because, you got DREPs with that, have way more voting power than we would if we custodied or if we did DREPing with the ADA that we hold, and also that ADA is being used for other things, so it's like. It's kind of a
Yeah. I'm just saying it could be an attractive alternative to
it's
saying,
possible.
hey, you buy Palm, you can still vote. You can still have some
It's
voting power in the
possible.
Cardano ecosystem.
It is possible, but I would like to see some sort of like proxy token support for that, because I think that would actually make it a lot more interesting for people who are investing in native assets in both Cardano and Ergo, because with Ergo, if you have native asset support for voting, then you could potentially use Rosen to bridge some assets back and forth between Cardano and Ergo. So you can use like Ergo tokens and make them into RS whatever on the other side. You can use RS Erg on the Cardano side for voting. That would be kind of cool, I think.
Yeah, I mean the tricky part is locking up the ADA that you purchase that proxy token with, right? Otherwise, there's double voting rights at some point, and you're diluting the voting pool.
Yeah. And Jermaine tells me to whatever that means.
I think you know what it means, Dan.
That's actually our head of business development in Argentina. His name is Facundo Ramirez, and his nickname is Kufa. But sometimes it's Faku, so it's he might be talking about Facundo. I don't know. That's a possibility. So maybe he's just saying shout out to Kufa. So yeah, Jume, if it is shout out to Kufa, then shout out to Kufa. If not, then I'm going to talk to the CIA about this, and you know what I mean.
Oh, he knows what you mean.
Yeah,
Christy,
he knows what a CIA.
Christy, you got Node 6 RC4 out successfully on mainnet, no errors, fully synced, and you were saying something like you had a tweet the other day that said that of none of these infrastructure upgrades have ever broken the chain, unlike other places.
Yeah, but for RC4, you need to understand that probably this version would be broken after RC5, and RC5 would be identical to the final release, right? So there are some fixes still needed to be included. So two pull requests now under review. So once approved and merged, RC5 will be released, and that's basically the final version of 6.0. RC4 is not stable release still, right? But you can sync the mainnet with it, at least. To the best of my knowledge, right, no any applications were broken due to protocol upgrades. So that's kind of philosophy here, I guess, the non-breaking development process. So application developers may be confident that what they're building will stay, right? So then the ecosystem could be built as a kind of I don't know, like a medieval cathedral, right? So people built them for centuries, and still they're around us, and very very solid constructions after all. the idea here is to have a good foundation for building digital financial cathedrals, right? So like solid constructions. And non-breaking protocol, core protocol development is absolutely crucial here.
Yeah, I'm looking at the node list, Kushti, and I still see there's nodes on stuff as old as 5.0.9, for goodness sake, back there in the active node list, 5.0.8, and they're still trucking along, no problem.
Oh, that's okay. So you can use even 4.0.100, right? Something
Wow.
like that. But yeah, what I was talking about is yeah, applications. So if you have some I don't know, application done in Ergo script back in 2019, right, deployed on the blockchain around that time, you can use it's right now, so all the box suspendable, and exactly in the same way as 6 years ago. And there are more exciting things. So now we have finally Merkleized abstract syntax trees and Merkleized finite state machines examples done in Ergo script, and they're allowing for a lot of cool things, like you may have a wallet which is controlled by one of let's say 100 policies, right? So you may specify 10 or 100 different spanning conditions, and instead of some huge script, so you are just including hash Merkle tree root hash, right? And policies are written under this tree, and then you present script you're executing during spanning and proving execution of it. So that's would be helpful for some complex wallet scenarios, like Bybit, for example, right? That's a recent scenario when hackers were able to drain the wallets, right? So you may have like different spending policies protecting a big wallet like Bybit, right? And to avoid big script, and to avoid showing all the logic actually also, so to have somewhat privacy, you may use this Merkleized solution for storing a lot of policies in a compact way. And with Merkleized finite state machines, so you may have like multi-stage contract execution with its states been progressing right from one state to another, and when the contract is reaching final state, the UTXO is becoming spendable. So it's even more powerful construction. So may be useful in different contexts, and also to have some privacy. So for example, if you have some dispute in your contract, some dispute path, then you need to show it only during the dispute, right? Otherwise, if some escrow, for example, is used in a dispute process, the identity of an escrow agent is hidden, right, before the dispute starts, and so on. So a lot of possibilities, and contracts were done back in 2018, but now they're available in Ergo script form. So yeah, you might check. So a lots of new possibilities for Ergo script developers, which were available only on low level before. And also for subblocks, so I'm already doing initial tests of multi-peer network. Well, actually, I have two peers, one on my laptop, another is on server. So, well, I am also doing debugging of both.
Is this
In
is this what you
parallel.
called for the other day, where you want somebody to help you run a DevNet, Kushti?
Yeah, so for now, well, it's better for me to have, well, just two nodes of mine, both in debug session, right? So I'm doing debugging of both nodes in parallel to see how peer to peer layer is working. And then, yeah, well, after some time, would be good to have more peers with mining. So, well, I'm doing CPU mining on both peers. So, yeah, well, CPU mining is enough. Well, also for Dexy, we have found, well, people willing to hold update keys for the initial periods, and well, also we consider it, well, the bootstrapping. So, yeah, well, everything is set for launch, mainnet launch. Then we may proceed.
Speaking of Dexy, Dan, can you click on Ursa Miner's question? I think it's a good segue into this.
Let's see.
Ursa Miner says, please explain how oracles are safe from hacks or gaming of price feeds like LBMA or Shanghai Index.
Do you want to take that one, or you want me to take it, or what do you want to do?
Oh, it's Kushti can take it, or I can take it. That's fine, either one.
Well, I mean, I can talk about this because actually this is something also that we're going to be building out for lithium.
Right.
So I can kind of chime in on this because they're talking about because Ursa Miner is talking about LBMA. So LBMA is a commodities gold standard. So LBMA gold is the like the standard for commodity trading for gold. It has specific purity. It's a 99.8, I think. And it's like, so that's basically what makes it kind of uniform. If you have LBMA gold, then doesn't matter where the gold comes from. Now, the problem here is that, well, with gold, it happens with other stuff like with lithium. It also happens where there's price manipulation happening, right? And so you have, well, so with gold, you actually have more even price reporting because there's a lot of places that report the price. But with something like lithium, you don't have enough places that have a uniform reporting standard. So what you have is you have these disparities in price, which can then be manipulated by producers that want to make the price go up. Like say there's some producers in some LATAM countries that will like stop producing lithium to make the price go up, even though they can't produce it. They feel like they want to make more money, so they just stop producing it and increase demand. It's not easy to do that with gold because there's just too many, right? But essentially what happens is even if you have a bunch of reporting places, most of the time it's not a lot of small companies that are doing it, right? It's a lot, most of it is just like a handful of large companies and large producers that are doing the reporting and that are setting the prices. And even if you have smaller producers for gold, like for example in Thailand, they have their own standard. But in Thailand, even though you have a bunch of small producers, they all are part of this like gold consortium that will then set the price for that day. And so again, even though you have, not decentralization, but distribution, like a distribution of a distributed consensus for price discovery, you essentially only have one central entity that will decide what the price is, and then it'll report it up to the oracle or report it up to the index. So why, so that can be manipulated because even though you have distribution, you always have these centralized points that end up reporting because not everybody can report it. With the decentralized Oracle ecosystem, basically, the more oracles you spin up, number one, oracles can be run without specific vetted interests in keeping the price up or down, because the oracle, if it's an effective oracle system, it'll have its own incentive structure that will incentivize the oracle to produce proper data, right? So you don't have data manipulation. That's number one. So it's not reliant on the incentive of the price going up or down. It's reliant on doing a good job because there's an incentive structure built into the Oracle network of rewards and slashing or whatever, however your network is built. That's number one. Number two, anybody can spin it up if it's a decentralized Oracle network, right? So you don't have to be like a gold consortium to spin up a gold Oracle, right? A gold price Oracle. You just have to have the hardware. You have to have, and you have to be able to participate in the financial structure that extrudes these rewards. And so that's a lot harder to manipulate, just like any distributed decentralized consensus is, because it's a decentralized consensus, right? So you always will have a minimum, consensus for something, for price or whatever, right? So even if, like, say I want to manipulate it and I start up my own Oracle and I start giving out shit data, it's still, you still can't convince everybody to give out shit data. It's really difficult. Like it is with the distributed consensus, with decentralized consensus or public ledgers. So, I mean, that's essentially like, that's what I think that's what makes it different, right? Because even with the big indexes, the information still comes from centralized sources that have a vetted interest in the price doing whatever it's doing, versus an Oracle network as interest in channeling proper data because their incentive is to get rewards and not get slashed by the Oracle incentives. And if you do have some adversarial players in the network, chances are really good that you can get enough non-adversarial players in the network that would just want to participate in the network and not try to manipulate the price, and so that you can then mitigate price manipulation or data manipulation from adversarial parties. So I mean that's how I see it. That's how I see it working. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, not bad, Dan. I'm impressed. Good job. Yeah, so like you said, it's only, I mean, the data we're bringing on chain with oracles is only as good as data that's out there, right? So there could be manipulation probably sooner on the outside world than there is coming into the chain. With Dexy, we have, what is it, 15 Kushti right now with Gold Oracle.
Yeah. Well,
something like that.
Yeah, online.
Yeah. So right now there's not, the only thing you can slash on that is your participation token. There's not a vested interest in that, not a vested amount of money that could slash, kind of like the Rosen Guards would be. But there's the incentive that if I screw up or start reporting falsely or get a bribe from somebody on the outside, I'm going to cut off any sort of income that I'd be getting from the Gold Oracle token for forever. You know what I mean? It'd be done. I'd be I'd be an untouched, don't touch, blacklisted kind of thing. So yeah, there's that incentive to be a good actor there. And I do think you're right, Dan. I think in these circumstances, especially in the Ergo ecosystem, you're going to have a larger group of actors naturally that want to do well and do good and continue a good service. Yeah.
Yeah, so in Oracle pools, yeah, so if you're providing outlier data, then yeah, your data point is just excluded, right? And for the rest, average is calculated, posted on chain. Yeah, then you need to convince like majority of oracles, right? To post some invalid data, but yeah, well, as HQ said and some other comment about that. So yeah, well, after all, oracles, well,
They're just passing data, right?
pulling data right
Yeah.
from outside, and yeah, there is not much you can do with outside. Well, so you may pull from different source and do averaging.
Average it out, yeah.
Yeah, you can do your own data provider. So, well, yeah. So for USD, well, it's CoinGecko by default, and yeah, well, I made my own provider once, and yeah, posted data from different source and so on. But yeah, after all, so well, in most cases, oracles well, not forming data, right? So they're just pulling the data from some source. And then, yeah, well, it's interesting in regards with lithium to well, use actual producers, so well, market participants, right, as data providers. That would be quite interesting.
Yeah, that's actually something that that I started working with my business development team on right now, is actually contacting market participants and producers to work with us in delivering this data, so that there could actually be, you know, arbitrage opportunities for different regions for lithium, because right now a lot of it is actually kind of fragmented, right? So you got different prices coming out of different regions. You also have another problem, which is logistics, right? So, and this is actually not just for lithium. You know, commodities have one of the biggest issues commodities face is a problem with logistics. You know, so for example, in the case of Argentinian lithium, one of the main problems that Argentinian companies have right now, that have access to the lithium, even if they have like land that has lithium deposits, and they want to spin up an operation. It's not just about spinning up an operation that will then process the lithium brine, and then extract lithium out of it, but it's also about getting it out of there, right? You want to, like, you know, the customer's not going to come to you; you have to ship it to them. But what you have to remember is that most of this stuff happens in like high elevations. You know, if some of you saw the yeah, a lot higher than that, QX. Yeah, way higher than that, way higher. You know, if maybe some of you saw that the documentary came out with the lithium must flow. We're at I forgot what it was, but it was like 10,000 or 15,000 meters up or something. It was basically where you know, if you are not a fit person, don't run, because your lungs will burn. And I mean, I am semi-fit-ish. You know, I do exercise, and even you know, I made the mistake of thinking that I was more fit than I am, and I forgot that I'm like middle-aged, and I try to like
altitude, yeah.
climb up a dune, and then my lungs said, no, fuck off, and then just burned a long time. So don't do that. So point is that when you get up to these elevations, you get logistics problems, right? So just in the case of lithium deposits are at high elevations and they're in these remote areas, right? And so you have to be able to get it out of there. And so what happens is some companies, like say the Chinese companies, they'll come in there and actually ship all of their logistics providers as well. Like they'll come there, they'll take all their trucks over there. They'll take all the drivers and everybody, right? So they'll ship the entire kit, not just start the facility and hire locally, but ship everything over there. Everybody's going to be Chinese, right? Everybody down to the drivers is going to be Chinese. The trucks are going to be Chinese, like all this stuff. And so, yeah, so basically what you get is a problem in logistics, which then creates a problem for delivery, which then creates a problem for equal price sustainability. And so that's what happens, with, and that it could also happen with gold as well. There's some areas, say like in Africa, for example, that are gold rich, but you cannot get the gold out easily. And that is why, they'll be sitting on gold deposits, but like getting those gold deposits out of there might be a problem, and therefore they can't really do much with it, and they have to rely on outside means or lowering the price or whatever else. So yeah, so basically to get back to the original question here, right? So the question here is the question that was asked here is are we relying on centralized sources like CoinGecko? Yeah, and in the case of commodities, a lot of times you have to do the same thing because there's just not enough sources out there that, I mean, like say, for example, what Alex said, you have to create his own pricing index to be able to pull data so you wouldn't have to use CoinGecko, right? So most of these oracles will just pull stuff out of CoinGecko, they'll pull stuff from CoinMarketCap or a couple of other ones. So it kind of defeats the purpose. Well, it's like, well, yeah, so basically just kind of like a proxy for an API at that point. You're not really a pricing oracle. But in a real pricing oracle scenario, what you actually want to have is that variety. And that's also, it could also be part of the protocol. Like, for example, only a certain amount of oracles can report prices from these particular places. There should be oracles that report prices from, like, you can set your minimum threshold for oracles reporting prices outside of these the CoinGeckos and the coin market caps. It just all depends on that, but really, yeah, it's just all about kind of getting a variety of data. And in commodities as well, you want to have producers reporting because you will get a variety of data out. And of course, there's going to be some data bullshit going on there, but you can have, number one, an incentive structure to mitigate that, and number two, a mitigation protocol to an algorithm that will counteract that kind of behavior. So there's several different things you can do if you get enough data. Because if you don't have enough data variety, then there's only so much you can do.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, Dan, because people need to remember that these oracles don't just exist for Zengate or Palmyra, right? These are going to be on-chain and public to everybody. So there could be competing oracles, right? Your oracles, Dan, that you help perhaps set up with Lithium could be more of an average pricing than somebody setting up oracles, pulling on-chain data from other Lithium price providers that maybe is a little faster to adjust price, or it rides a little higher. So then it's up to the dApps to decide which oracles they're going to price from there. So there's actually a competition among oracle providers, even though they're decentralized and open source at that point, which is interesting thought. Cool. Well, we got another question here before we go. Yeah, sorry, go for it.
Yeah, so there is more here. So for USD, for example, well, if you are not using CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap, then you are using some exchange probably directly, right? And then you need for enough volume. So what CoinGecko is doing, for example, already is averaging data, doing weighted average from different exchanges, right? So
Right.
well, it's already well improving quality of data. It tries at least. And then yeah, well, for the lithium use case, well, if producers are going to put data on chain, it would be quite interesting actually case where we can create some alternative price index, right? Maybe also secured with some on-chain protocols and so, well, transparency, which would be quite interesting because, well, for existing price in this, it's not quite clear, right? Well, how they formed and what manipulations there. Probably it's not even possible to
Well, there is
catch them, right?
like there is manipulation. It mostly comes from certain Asian countries, and it's a problem. Because it literally first of all it creates an opportunity for more manipulation, right? Like it's basically kind of like feeds itself, and it also stifles real business because some of these guys just can't really do honest business because there's manipulation. So yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah, looking at CoinGecko, guys, there's at least a top 15 are considered somewhat trustworthy of their combined score or their combined price for Ergo. Spectrum Finance or ErgoDex is 16, and it looks like they're getting prices from that as well. So yeah, so it's getting from Dex, it's getting from Sexes for the CoinGecko price. But yeah, I would say that is an issue that for the Oracle 2 is not going to do, is that we're getting it from one source that aggregates other sources. It'd be nice to aggregate the sources ourselves inside the Oracle protocol so that if one thing goes down, it doesn't matter. We still have 16 other sources that we're pulling and averaging in and weighting in kind of thing. So yeah. Cool. Well, it's 10 o'clock, boys. I've got in real life meetings I got to hit.
You don't have any meetings. You just have to.
I'm not important. I'm not important at all.
You have to go and stare at the wall again. Come on, you work at Cornell. What do you guys do there anyway? All right.
All right. And Ergonauts, I will be around. I don't know, on Saturday or Sunday, my evening. So let's have some community chats over the Telegram. Just text chat maybe about high performance proof of work protocols, blogs, all that stuff. So yeah, well, see you around.
Awesome.
And yeah, my pleasure.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. And yeah, next week, same time, same place, same channel on YouTube. And until then, this is Dan coming to you barely live from Japan. Still have a bunch of work to do, by the way. It's only 11 p.m. All right. And to the sides here, I got QX and I got Kushti. It looks all wrong. Anyway, thanks for leaving us off on that, QX. All right. We're going to sign off. See everybody. See you later, everybody.